But yes, this whole episode hopefully has given you a few takeaways of, right, how do I improve my focus at work to get the job done? Congratulations, that is a mighty effort. I haven't sent you to sleep beforehand. So obviously, when your phone pings, it gives you notifications all the time. And I don't know how many notifications you get, but the studies say you get several thousand or several hundred notifications a day. Welcome to the Zest Method channel. I'm Amelia, an ex-army doctor and founder of a preventative medicine coaching business called, you guessed it, the Zest Method. I have an insatiable curiosity about the subconscious mind and self-betterment, and so I'm hoping to, through this medium, share what I learn and hopefully help humans feel better, not perfect. Episode 8. Focus. Now, why I'm talking about focus is because in my day job as an occupational health physician, I am coming across an increasing number of patients who have sort of issues focusing, are informally and or formally diagnosed with ADHD, and they have a real problem with inattention and object impermanence, etc. Now, whether you've got ADHD or not, I think everyone's struggling with focus. Now, I've alluded to multiple episodes beforehand about the issue with phones. And I think that these algorithms, the way that videos are now edited and encouraged to be edited, having been in that cycle before when I tried to go viral and be a social media influencer last year, that flopped. Because I found it really exhausting, the fact that I had to, with this 1 minute video that I was already told was too long because people lose interest and swipe, though even within that 1 minute reel or short, I had to have a sort of pattern disrupt every 2 seconds. Now, that was exhausting to edit, but also I just thought to myself, no wonder we have a problem or increasing rates of ADHD and reduced focus, more impatience than before, and wanting that dopamine hit constantly. And I call it a high time preference, where you want something now, instant gratification. And we're conversely very bad at the opposite. Patience has gone out the window. No one can focus longer than 10 seconds. I found this out actually when I was doing my meditation, that still today, I find it's every morning when I'm there meditating, I find it very, very difficult to focus on my breath for longer than 5 to 10 seconds before a thought comes in and distracts me. And then maybe a minute later I'll be like, oh, there we are, off again, are we? Back to the breath. And then gone again. It's ridiculous. And then the fact that because we want something now, we're just not willing to wait for the goods to come later. And that can have multiple consequences. So the reason why focus was relevant to me is because I remember an ex of mine said, Amelia, you're like an excitable puppy, that you just can't focus on one thing. That as soon as a new shiny object comes along, you, like a magpie, you just go from one thing to the next, get bored, onto the next. And that was in sort of across multiple factors of my life, but mainly it was most obvious with jobs. That if I couldn't really handle a job much longer than 1 to 2 years, which back then was seen as abnormal and flighty on your CV. Whereas again, nowadays, sign of the times, if you're in a job longer than 2 years, there's something wrong with you. So you can see how generally as a society, it's going in the wrong direction. And I really want to try and catch this pendulum of with my coaching clients, I really try and increase the ability to focus and have patience and being able to sort of absorb more longer material, hence why I've actually moved to podcasts and long form, because it suits my style, and it basically means I'm not being a hypocrite. So for anyone who does actually manage to listen to my episode and get through 10 minutes of me talking half an hour, congratulations, that is a mighty effort. I haven't sent you to sleep beforehand. Now, with the focus issue, yes, it's definitely phones have a part to play. But something that I thought as an alternative reason for it, which could be maybe just me, but when I've discussed it with others, they have probably agreed with me that it can be a form of self-sabotage. And what I mean by that is, and you have to bear with me here because I'm still trying to work through this hypothesis myself, but when you spread yourself too thin, you juggle too many plates, you can only really give 5% of yourself to these certain activities or things you're doing in life. And it means that you actually don't get much done. You're being busy rather than productive. And Charlotte and I, or Dr. Perry and I, touched upon this in episode 3 or 4, which you're more than welcome to revisit, obviously cheeky plug. But to sort of pull on that thread more, that I really had to do some soul searching recently where I was thinking, Amelia, why do you jump all the time? As soon as starts get something, you're on something or a new idea. As soon as you get comfortable with it, you just jump. And I, at one point, had so many projects going on, to the point where, I was overwhelmed, stressed, but also I just, deep down, was never ever fulfilled or content, because I just thought, what are you actually achieving at the end of the day? And then it made me think, well, if you are spreading yourself too thin and self-sabotage, what are you self-sabotaging yourself from? And maybe it was the fact that I didn't want to truly focus on my dream vocation because my subconscious perhaps was worried of failure. Because to me, there almost is nothing more mortifying than when you really put your all into something. Full effort. 110%, even that doesn't really even exist. Do I need to wave?
We've lost, the heads if you want to.
I need to move more.
There we go.
No, but actually, had it been lower lighting, that might have been more flattering for me, but never mind. We're back in white and I look pasty again. To me, there's nothing more mortifying than really, really focusing on a dream job, like really putting your all into it, and then still failing. Whereas I think beforehand, many years ago, when I could just dabble in a project or projects here or there, and if they did fail, I'd be like, well, I didn't put much effort into it anyway. And I wonder whether it was my subconscious just protecting me from failure, because maybe my sort of inner being was worried that if I really went for my dream goal and vocation, and I didn't get it, maybe I couldn't bounce back from it. So once that came across into my thought pattern, I thought, well, that's interesting that maybe I think I can't handle failure, and I don't think as perfectionists we do. So I decided I'm going to do the opposite then, that I'm going to put my all into something and really, really chase the dream vocation that I actually really deep down want to do. And if I fail, then another door will open, trust the process, I'll learn a lot, and at least, most importantly of all, I can go to my grave saying I tried. And so that's why this year I thought, right, let's launch this podcast that you've been wanting to do for a couple of years, but been too scared to do just in case it fails or flops, and become a full-time coach, which is scary because there's I've run out of ideas if neither of these things work out. Now, the podcast here is a passion project, and I'm on purpose not looking at analytics or comments, etc., because I want it to remain fun and for me to remain curious. I can bring new knowledge and new ideas, new revelations to the podcast to be able to disseminate it to anyone who's listening or wants to listen. But with the coaching business, it's all I've secretly wanted to do. I really, really want to help people, but in a way that I believe will make a difference. And if that doesn't happen, then back to the hospital I go, or God knows. So that is terrifying, but in a way that's given me newfound motivation. This cannot fail. This cannot fail. And I can tell you something. I have now double down on my focus. And there's a famous quote by Charlie Munger. For those of the financial sector, will be familiar with who this man is. But he said basically, take a simple idea and take it very seriously. And obviously, he's right. And there's a lot of wise words to that. So I'm taking this idea and running with it and giving it my all. I've dropped lots of other plates and juggling and just doubling down on this, hoping it will lead to the fulfillment and contentment that I've been missing with all these half-assed attempts at these other projects. And when it comes to perhaps making this applicable to others, that perhaps in areas where you find you lack focus, it could be across the board like me, but maybe there's a certain area where you are lacking true focus, and maybe it's because you're maybe doing the wrong thing, but also are you truly letting yourself commit to the process and the goal and the dream? Because if you really were and allowed yourself to lean into that fear, go for something you really truly wanted. It doesn't have to be work, it could be a relationship, or it could be a hobby or a skill, anything, a holiday, that you'd almost probably then get tunnel vision. And that's been something quite refreshing for me. And of course, at times I get distracted. New shiny little object, new bright colour comes along, and I want to, or maybe I could take that on. But then it's having to, right, Amelia, does this meet your values? And does this small decision or this small project or this collaboration lead you in the right direction? Does it take you one step forward or one step back? And by making it that simple, and as Charlie said, a simple idea, then it makes a lot of things uncomplicated, that you get better at saying no to something, so no, that will distract me and doesn't add to anything to my main aim. Or equally, it gives you the confidence or bravery to start saying yes to things. Yet, no, I know this person, this coffee with this person, or this collaboration with this company, or this opportunity to open this door will put me one step forward to achieving fulfillment. So that's what I have to say about focus. And another thing was about the dream is that at one point, by juggling so many plates and wanting to build an empire, I think I had slight ideas of grandiose, where you think you're better than you are. And I was putting a lot of pressure on myself that I wasn't at age 32 having already built my empire, and that pressure and urgency and wanting time to go past quicker so I could be able to achieve that goal was also very, very unhelpful. And my career coach, she said to me once, Amelia, don't take this wrong way, but you're nothing special. You're just like everyone else. Which at first really hurt my ego. I was like, no, I am unique. Mummy told me so. After a while, understood what she meant. That actually, when you take the pressure of the fact that I'm not some messiah, or I'm not going to be this sort of best entrepreneur, I'm not actually maybe not going to be this tycoon that builds this empire, that maybe just being an author, a podcaster, and a coach, only just that is enough. They don't have to worry about all these other stresses or all these other titles or qualifications, etc. That if you just work for these three things, that takes a lot of pressure off me, reduces the urgency, improves my focus, improves my patience, delays gratification, and lowers my time preference. So as I always like to do, try and make this helpful for other people so they're not just ranting about my own story, but some actionable points, takeaways to be able to help for your focus. Is we all write out our goals, what we want to do, but it would actually be really helpful for you to perhaps they do say the window of visualization is 16 minutes. Don't know why. So maybe set a timer, and for 16 minutes, just allow yourself to dream, unfiltered, about what your future self or ideal self looks like, where you are, what you've achieved, what you're doing day to day, who you're with, where you are. And then once you've got that sort of dream in mind, then work out what small steps you can put into your daily life now to be able to start curating that dream. Now, alongside that, definitely address the phone issue. So something I found very, very useful, and it has obviously taken a lot of time for me to be able to practice and implement this, because we are addicted to it, is a function that I definitely didn't use beforehand or enough, and do now, is the do not disturb function. Now, I'm all going to now, warning, I'm going to teach you to suck eggs, but I can't tell you how good it has been for me to not only resist urges to check my phone, but it also has improved my memory, short-term memory, and focus. So obviously, when your phone pings, it gives you notifications all the time. And I don't know how many notifications you get, but the studies say you get several thousand or several hundred notifications a day. Now, can you imagine when you're trying to focus on something and then this little gadget and device just constantly pings, it's noisy, it's bright, entertaining, even if your eyes are diverted for a second or two, and then you see the text and you want to read more as it excites you or actually depresses you because it's BBC News, World War III, it takes your brain so long to switch back to the original activity you're doing. Because although they say, yeah, women can multitask, we can't. No one can. Unless if you want to give everything true effort and true concentration and attention. So by putting your phone on Do Not Disturb, but perhaps allow all calls to come through, so if someone really needs to contact you, they can. But it means that your screen remains silent and blank all day. And then I dedicate 3 times a day to checking it. And it sounds very arbitrary, but it's hyper effective and very hard to do. So I'll do my morning routine, I'll go to the gym, I'll have my coffee, I'll have my breakfast, completely undisturbed by life, my quiet moment in the morning. And then I check my phone just before I start work to get into work mode. But then that's when I can see all the messages that have come in overnight in the evening. And then I'll put it away and activate Do Not Disturb. And then I'll switch on after lunchtime. So during my lunch break, when all my productive morning work has been done, I'll check at lunchtime, reply to whoever I need to, put it on Do Not Disturb, and then check it at after supper. And just those simple things, such a simple exercise, has been so effective for me. So just a bit of advice to see whether that helps you. Now, I've also, on my screen, all the apps that give you notifications that has that really annoying red circle by it, say, for example, 2 messages or 57 million WhatsApps, I've moved all those icons onto a separate screen. So on my iPhone, all the stuff that I use day to day, which is notes, diary, calculator, alarm, calendar, etc., that's all on one screen, so that I'm not tempted to dabble into Instagram or WhatsApp or iMessage because I can't see those red dots. The diary and notes don't give me any notifications for me to silence. So that when I then go into my phone, I then choose to swipe onto the screen and I see all these red dots that look all really appealing, you want to click on. But yes, apart from helping my short-term memory and focus, it's also been hyper effective. I don't actually know how many times I said the word effective this episode, but just please ignore. I can't think. I've got the thesaurus on me. I can't think of any other word at the moment. What's been so good is strengthening that discomfort muscle that I keep going on about almost every episode. That because we want instant gratification, I want to check the Instagram now. I simply cannot wait to see what the person's put or replied. By not checking it, even for half an hour, delaying it by 5 minutes, and being able to resist the urge, that is you taking back control and autonomy of your mind and time. And believe me, it's very, very difficult, but it does work that over time you can eventually increase the distance and time that you check those notifications. And a bit like how meditation is inoculation to stress, because when you're meditating, sitting down, cross-legged, feeling stiff or in pain, or just really bored, that is the ideal time to be able to resist all urges. I would rather, when I'm meditating, I'd rather be doing anything else. Anything else. A walk, looking outside, reading a book, watching TV, work, anything. Because meditating is so long and boring and dull. But instead of us thinking meditation is, serene exercise and empty thoughts and all very calm, a wonderful analogy was it's inoculation to stress. And hopefully, when I practice it more, coupled with the do not disturb phone function, etc., that I began to build up resilience to stress and discomfort. And with that, autonomy and control will increase your focus on what you actually really want to do in the task at hand. But yeah, so with this focus episode, I just wanted to raise your awareness to it, because a lot of us will be doom scrolling, something that I actually can't do because I find that very dull and very boring, and I perhaps don't care enough about other people, so maybe it makes me very egotistical. But set a timer. I mean, the fact that we even have to get timers on our phone to tell us when to come off TikTok is terrifying. I think that's just such a bizarre concept, and it's just so bad for us. So if it means you have to implement the timer, then do so and listen to it and put the phone away before you go to sleep so you get sufficient sleep and blah, blah, blah. But yes, this whole episode hopefully has given you a few takeaways of, right, how do I improve my focus at work to get the job done? And those are just some of the tips that I give my patients day to day, but also something I've implemented myself. I do preach. I do... What's the word? Preach what I teach? I basically do take my own medicine, and it has worked. So I thought I'd share that with you all. Okay, so that'll be episode 8, and see you next week.